Tim Masthay played youth soccer in Des Moines, Iowa. He spent his formative years in Murray, Kentucky, where he played football, soccer, basketball, and baseball. A multi-sport standout who eventually found his niche kicking footballs instead of soccer balls.
I got into punting because my best friend growing up was the star football player. We hung out constantly. Every weekend I was at his house. We were inseparable, and so he, probably around my freshman year, kind of started goading me to come out for the football team. And I was kind of, I was already doing baseball, basketball, and soccer for the high school. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do it. I don't know if I can squeeze it in time-wise anyhow. Well, anyhow, he eventually wore me down, him and the head football coach, to get me to come out for spring ball my sophomore year. And I kind of took to it pretty quickly, and they convinced me to come out for the team that fall, and the rest is sort of history, I guess.
Kicking a soccer ball, I know the hand-eye coordination it takes just to kick anything, or to swing the golf club. But the punting motion is so much different. I mean, a field goal kicker, you go from soccer to kicking field goals, that's one thing, but to be a punter from soccer to punting, how big a transition is that?
Very different. So yeah, kicking a football and kicking a soccer ball, pretty similar. Not a whole lot of, it's a pretty seamless transition. I mean, it's still hard to become very good at it and accurate and consistent and get the timing down, but the kicking motion is similar. Punting is totally different, plus you add in the fact that you got to catch the ball and drop it precisely. So yeah, it's totally different, and it took me a lot longer to get good at it. Again, I was fortunate because the head coach at the University of Kentucky at the time, Rich Brooks, he saw something in me, because I really wasn't that good of a high school punter. I was okay. I mean, I had raw talent, but I wasn't a refined punter at all. I was a good kicker, kind of right out of the gate, but punting, I was kind of all over the place, just had a strong leg. He saw something in me. In fact, when he was recruiting me, he would always tell me that I reminded him exactly of Josh Bidwell, who punted here, of course.
Sure.
And because he had coached Josh at University of Oregon. So that was part of his recruiting spiel, was that I'd be like Josh. So he offered me a scholarship to come punt at Kentucky, even though, like I said, I was kind of raw. And I started my freshman year and just kind of got better as I went along.
You got a shot with the Colts, and as is the case with most kickers, your first shot is usually not your last. Yeah. You'll go to different places. But you ended up coming to Green Bay in the summer of 2010. Tell me about that, because did you realize you were on the cusp of a Super Bowl run? Yeah,
so sort of what happened was when I went to the Colts, it was the same year they drafted Pat McAfee. Everyone knows Pat McAfee. He was a great punter. Of course, now he's a great personality on running his TV show and the wrestling and all that stuff. So he and I came in together, and he beat me out. I did all right when I was with Indianapolis, but the thing I learned was that I knew I had the leg. I knew I had a chance at being consistent enough. I knew I had the mentality and the discipline to be a professional. I could tell that when I was in Indianapolis, but I was not good at red zone punting, and I was not good at directional punting. You have to be good at both those things to play in the NFL. You don't have a chance. Mm-hmm. So when I got cut, I went back to the University of Kentucky and trained. Got the call from Green Bay right after the season ended. They'd lost to Arizona in the playoffs first round. That was a great game, but Packers lost. I got a call the next day to, hey, we'll put you on a futures contract and give you a shot in the offseason, see what you can do. So when I got here, I knew that I had to dramatically improve those two aspects of my game to have a chance. On top of it, they had Chris Bryan. They brought him in as well, who was an Australian. He had been an Aussie rules player over in Australia. They brought him in, and that was kind of at the beginning of everyone switching to the Australian red zone punting. So I was up against it, playing against a guy who'd been doing it since he was a little kid, but I also learned a lot watching him and watching other guys doing similar things, and was able to develop to a point where I was good enough.
Masthay came to the Packers as a free agent punter in 2010, and he made it on a team heading places.
But that group, I remember the first training camp was probably the most ruckus training camp that we had from our downtime. It was the last year that you had two-a-days. I believe it was last year we had two-a-days.
Could be.
You know, of course, we stayed at St. Norbert's, and it was just a real fun-loving group that was always pranking each other, always having fun with one another. I was a rookie and kind of getting my feet wet, so this was less so for me, and I didn't know the guys as well, but I know it was a group that really hung out a lot outside of football as well.
Yeah, and a lot of injuries and a lot of different people on that team that year. It was incredible. But you also were working with Mason Crosby. Tell me about him and what impact did he have on you?
Oh, well, Mason was great. I mean, Mason's career speaks for itself, but I think we meshed right off the bat. I mean, we started hanging out the first week I was here. He took me out to play a round of golf because Mason's really into golf. I always had a knack from the time I started doing it in college. Holding came to me pretty, I worked hard at it, but it also came to me fairly naturally. I never really struggled with it at all, so I think he and I jived really well from that standpoint too. He trusted me pretty much instantly. So we had a good professional relationship, and then we had a good personal relationship off the field. That probably helped me in more ways than I even realized, because I was probably just more at ease when I was in the building because of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, to be on a team and to be a good teammate, you don't have to necessarily hang out with someone or be close to them personally, but doesn't it make a difference if you are? Doesn't it help?
Oh, I think it does help. And it was the same with Brett Good. So the three of us really were a really tight-knit group.
As a rookie, Tim experienced something some 10-year vets in the league never get to experience: a Super Bowl.
One of the things I remember about it was just that because of the way the season played out, we had to go on that long run. We just had a ton of momentum going into the Super Bowl, which, I mean, I guess any team does to some degree because, I mean, you got to win at least a couple playoff games to get there. But we had basically our playoffs had started in whatever it was, week 13 or 14, something like that, where we had to go on a run. And so every game it felt like that, and we just kept winning them, and we were playing our best ball. So there was a lot of juice in the team. I remember that. Specifically to Sunday, as a football player, like, that's what it's about. So it felt like, I mean, there's definitely butterflies for myself. I know there were definitely butterflies. The pregame's a little bit longer than a normal pregame. So the routine was a little different, I remember. I just remember just kind of a buzz the whole day and trying to temper it. And in fact, I remember the first play that I was on, because I think we punted on our first possession, if I remember correctly, and it was from midfield, and I was in my head, which, that's a punt that requires some touch. I had to, like, really, really try to temper down the energy because it was a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I went out there and just sent it right into the end zone. And then settled down, and then it felt like a normal, it was just football after that, but a lot of electricity is what I remember.
A couple years later, you did throw a touchdown pass. You remember that to Tom Crabtree, of all people?
Of course, yes.
Crabber was one of the great personalities.
Well, and Crabby was my roommate in training camp.
Was he
yeah.
really?
So
tell me about that.
That made it even more fun. Well, we just had a blast with it. It was just fun. We came in together. He'd gotten here, I think, a couple months before me because I think he'd been on P Squad the last couple weeks of the prior season. But yeah, he and I came in the same time, roommates for 3 or 4 years at training camp.
Well, tell me about the play. It was what, a fake field goal, and you threw a touchdown pass against the Chicago Bears?
Yeah, I wish I could remember the name of the play now. I remember the name of a different fake field goal that we ran that didn't go as well. But that one, I'm blanking on the name of it. But yeah, it was basically the Bears had a tendency to overload one side on field goal. And so that was the key. So we saw this on film. We watched it for weeks and weeks. They just kept doing it. They kept overloading this one side, overloading this one side. And so we drew up this play where basically I just fielded it, tossed it to Tom peeling off the end, and would take advantage of that overload. So sure enough, we get out there, and I'm supposed to call the play off if there's no overload, but the overload was there, so we went with it, and there he goes down. And what made it even better was it was 4th and 26, something like that, which of course also has history prior to that play. So
was it 4th and 20? I didn't remember that part of it. But a 27-yard touchdown pass. Now I'm picturing a big rainbow down the sidelines, over the shoulder catch.
No, it was a little rinky-dink. Yeah, a little 1-yard shovel pass. But hey, that's how it goes down. My biggest regret probably from my pro career is that I think that might have made it 10-0, because I think we were up 3-0 when we did that, and it was right before halftime. It was kind of a gut punch to them, but you know how the scoreboard will run stats throughout the game. Well, like I said, it was 10-0, so all we had done was kick a field goal after that. So for a quarter or so, it kept, whenever passing stats would come up, you'd have Masthay 1 TD, Rogers 0. I thought, man, if I could have that framed,
Somebody
that would
has
be
a
the
picture
best.
of that, don't they?
No, I've tried. Trust me. I've spent what, 9 years looking for it, haven't found it.
Just reflect on your time in Green Bay.
Playing in the NFL is special, you know, on a number of levels. I think, and maybe I'm biased because I spent my career here, but I think from hearing other people talk about it too, playing here is special on another level. Beyond that. And then the guys, the relationships and the memories and the camaraderie that you form going through it all together. I mean, I've been out for a little over 5 years now. I think about it every day for a little bit of the day. So I think about the guys, I think about some of the stuff we did. I think about winning the Super Bowl. And I was here during a great time too, because we never missed playoffs that whole stretch. So it was an even more special time to be a part of the Packers.
What about playing in this town? This is so unusual from most NFL towns.
Well, I mean, of course you have the history of the history of the team is so unique, going back to the Lombardi era, and then even way before that with the Lambeau era, and you know how it all started, and the public ownership structure, and then it's the only team that's in a small town, and then you have a fan base that is fanatical. So I mean, whether you're playing on the road or home, I mean, the home games are all sold out. The road games, half of the fans are Packers fans. Everyone rallies around Go Pack Go. And being a guy who really wanted to focus on football and didn't really care about, you know, the nightlife or being at a big glitzy city, for me it was just amazing. And then it's the weather, all of it. So yeah, like I said, I still think about it pretty much every day.
There's a trick to kicking in Lambeau Field in December, isn't it?
It's not the easiest place to punt, yeah. I might have played a little longer if I'd played somewhere else maybe, but
you needed a dome.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I didn't like playing on the road as well, but Lambeau and the Packers organization, and then just the guys I got to play with, couldn't have asked for a better scenario.